We're here with another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay on the latest games releasing. Today we're talking about UFC 4. Now, UFC 4, I'm going to go ahead and say right off, is not going to rock your socks if you've played any of the previous UFC games. It's iterative, control scheme, mostly unchanged since UFC 3. However, there are some key improvements that I do think are very, very, very worthwhile for purchase. If you are a fan of the series, or if you are interested in the series, or maybe liked Fight Night and wish that there was more Fight Night. Now, this game comes to us by EA Vancouver, the makers of FIFA, NHL, and obviously, like I said, the Fight Night series. The Fight Night games were really awesome, and these UFC games have been pretty much the closest thing to a continuation that we have seen. Probably want to talk about graphics first. Obviously, they're good. They're not shocking or amazing or anything. There are some PS4 Pro games that really do impress me, despite the fact we're on the cusp of another console generation. UFC 4 is not quite that. It's, like I said, good. It's not like a game that's going to take you out of it because the graphics are weird or anything. Some of the details, however, are a little bit dated. There's a little bit of uncanny valley in some of the facial models. I don't know if it's avoidable in this generation or not with this type of a game where they are attempting to go for realism. But, and this is the key but here, this game plays very, very smoothly. And for this type of a game, or really any kind of sports game for that matter, that's important. You can also switch it between performance mode and resolution mode. I actually find resolution mode to play pretty smoothly, although performance mode looks basically as good. The facial details they're the same problem either way. And that's really the main complaint I have graphics-wise. Probably the most impressive thing, graphically speaking, however, is the physics. If you get a KO with a kick to the head, it just lands. It looks incredibly painful, and pretty much every way that the fighters interact with each other just works. It looks so good. It's so believable. Like, everything feels like it has mass, inertia, etc. Collision detection and the motion capture are just superb in this game, and there are some very convincing maneuvers as a result. Although, slight complaint on the sort of ground and pound punches, they look a little bit weak. First KO I got with them, I was a bit surprised. I felt like, are you sure? That didn't seem like a punch that would knock someone out. But maybe I'm just tough. But now we've got the graphics out of the way, let's talk a little bit about career mode. Obviously, the main feature of the game, the primary thing you're coming to the game for, there is a pretty lengthy tutorial. And I'm going to go ahead and say, like, most of it's pretty necessary. Some of it will feel unnecessary, but it's actually not. That said, I do feel like there probably could have been a better way to do it. It felt long, too long. I mean, it doesn't take away from the fun of the game, and I do feel like after having played it, it was important that I went through it. However, when I was going through it, I did not. I could also see somebody who's new from the series being like really annoyed by it and not paying attention and maybe being a little lost afterwards. So do pay attention, especially if you have not played this series before. I feel like you probably know what career mode is, but just in case, you make a fighter and rise up the ranks from the indies to the WFA and eventually the UFC. You set fights, you have a training camp where you spar to increase your stats, you invite fighters to learn new moves, you do promo events, you create hype, you get sponsorships, you make money. It's what you would be doing in real life if we were able to do stuff like that. No, you probably wouldn't be doing this in real life. I wouldn't be anyways. I don't see me becoming a UFC fighter anytime soon. Lockdown or not. There is a new feature in career mode, however, where you raise or lower your reputation with other fighters. It's interesting because let's say you lower your reputation with a certain guy and you become rivals with that person. And if you do a match with a rival, you end up making more money because there's more hype. It's actually, I think, a clever idea that does kind of actually mirror how this stuff works in real life. But on the flip side, if you make your reputation better with other fighters, it makes it cheaper to train with certain guys. I mean, not like the biggest change you've ever seen, it is kind of a fun thing that I think adds a little bit more options, a little bit more decisions you can make. More or less, it gives you a little more personality, a little more flair in the game. And the actual effect is relatively small. Like, you're not going to get rich by pissing off every fighter and having a ton of rivals and building tons of hype. That's not how it works. In general, career mode has probably enough meat to be engaging without overwhelming. The different training types are a lot of fun. And in general, it actually doesn't feel like too much of a grind, which is good because, I mean, it could be a lot worse. However, I'm also kind of comparing this with WWE 2K. So maybe my tolerance for grinding is a little higher. Just keep that in mind as you're evaluating what we're saying here today. There's one more notable career mode change I think that's worth mentioning. It seems like there are less difficulty spikes than the previous UFC game. I don't think I've gotten particularly better at this game, and I don't think any of the other guys have either. So I don't want to be like, yeah, we just got good, man. No, I think that the game is just a little more balanced. And I also think that's a good thing rather than a bad thing. It also helps that the game lets you just choose a difficulty right at the start. There are a few other changes I think that are really worth talking about. There is no ultimate team. This was a collecting card pack type thing. It's gone. It's appeared in other EA sport franchises like FIFA. Some people like it, some people hate it. It's definitely the most microtransaction heavy mode in those games. And it's actually like a thing that makes them more money than you can possibly imagine if you go look into that. I'm kind of happy it's not here. I am not personally a fan of it. I do know that there are people that are fans of it, though. So, I mean, keep that in mind. I'm not telling you that it makes the game good or bad. It's really a personal taste thing. Also kind of an economic class thing, if you know what I mean. There is a new thing called grapple assist. People, us included, like go back to the UFC 3 BYB. We complained, a lot of people complained, that the ground game was kind of confusing in previous entries of the series. So this game starts with grapple assist turned on, which really simplifies grappling controls. And honestly, like you might say like, oh, assist, that sounds like something that somebody who's not good at the game might use. Genuinely, like if you go back to UFC 3, it's confusing, especially if you don't understand it right off. Yes, you can get good at it. And yes, people who got good at it and want to continue playing it that way, like I said, can turn it off. You can switch it to Legacy. Works just like the previous game. But I will say for somebody like me who actually does kind of struggle with how they have it set up in this game, they do have a hybrid option that combines elements from Full Assist and Legacy. And it's kind of a good alternative for people who find the Full Assist mode a little too basic, which I'm going to go ahead and say is me. Like, let me just say it this way. Like, you get a lot of assistance. They did change how submissions work a little bit. There's now 2 different mini games, one for chokes and one for joint submissions. But they're both pretty easy to understand. I would say that they're intuitive. I don't really have any difficulty with them or confusion. If you've seen how submissions work with like WWE 2K, it's basically like that, but it actually feels a little bit better in this game, maybe a little smoother. As far as game modes, there's quite a few. There's Fight Now, which is playing against the AI or locally against somebody else. Like, it's actually insanely easy to set up a local game, and that is a big plus. There's online modes, there's World Championship, which is rank mode, blitz battles, short matches with rules that change every couple hours, quick fight, which is random unranked battles. All in all, online is a little slim, but from our testing, we really had no problems. Like, it was pretty smooth. It was a good experience. I enjoyed it. There could be a little bit more involved here, though. A couple of minor complaints about microtransactions. I think if we just stopped mentioning that kind of stuff in videos, it would be remiss of our responsibility here, because it is part of the game. And although it has become such an embedded part of the industry, we have to talk about it. I feel like there's not a lot of it. The only real microtransactions are in character customization. There's certain clothing, there's some emotes and emblems, but you can primarily buy them with in-game currency or UFC points, which is the premium currency. You can earn in-game currency by leveling up your account, and they also establish milestones you can do, like finish 10 fights, grapple for 300 seconds, various elements like that. It's not difficult to get in-game currencies, so I wouldn't call the microtransactions excessive, but they definitely do limit you in the amount of in-game currency you're going to be able to get. That being said, the stuff that's on offer, I don't know if I really think it's worth the microtransactions. Like, there's a lot of patterns for tops and bottoms and not really a lot else. So while I thought that the amount of in-game currency you get as compared to how much you would need in premium currency, not great. Neither are the things you can buy. So it's kind of a wash. For the most part, it's not that intrusive. But that leads me to ask, why bother? Why even bother having them in there? Now, there aren't what I would call a ton of major bugs or anything. We saw a few instances of stuttering during pre and post match segments, but during the matches, pretty smooth, honestly. We had the game freeze up for a few seconds mid-match, which is a little weird, but otherwise, game runs really, really nice on PS4 Pro. We have seen people talk about more severe bugs, but we haven't encountered any of it. Would I call it a huge step up from UFC 3? No. But the changes are, for the most part, in my opinion, positive. So I would call it a superior game to UFC 3. So maybe if you skipped 3, this is the one to get. The tutorial, like I said, is a little bit long, but again, it does definitely tell you more about the game that you need to know. The ground game changes, particularly the grapple assist. And the fact they got rid of Ultimate Team. It's improvement over the last game. If you're new to the franchise and you want to play this game, it looks like fun to you, this is the one to get, obviously. But if you play it every year too, I'm not going to say you're going to be disappointed with it. I don't think you will be. I certainly found it to be superior to the previous one. But what do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe and don't forget to enable all notifications. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.